Welcome to Wisdom-Trek with Gramps. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, and we are on day 2865 of our trek. The purpose of Wisdom-Trek is to create a legacy of wisdom, to seek out discernment and insights, and to boldly grow where few have chosen to grow before. The title for today's Wisdom-Trek is The Blessed Hearth, Cultivating Cosmic Peace in the Home. In our previous episode on this ancient pilgrim path, we climbed through the 8th Song of Ascent, Psalm 127. That profound psalm, written by King Solomon, delivered a striking warning about the total futility of human ambition. We learned that unless the Lord builds the house, and unless the Lord guards the city, our frantic, anxious, early morning to late night labor is completely wasted. We explored the beautiful martial metaphor of children being shaped like arrows in the hands of a warrior, designed to be launched directly into the cultural battlefield to push back the darkness. We resolved to surrender our personal blueprints to the divine architect, resting securely in his sovereign provision. Today, we take our next rhythmic, joyful steps up the trail toward the holy city. We are immersing ourselves in the 9th Song of Ascent, Psalm 128, verses 1 through 6 in the New Living Translation. This psalm serves as the perfect, beautiful twin to the one we just left behind. If Psalm 127 warned us against the dangerous traps of building an autonomous empire, Psalm 128 shows us the breathtaking, positive reality of what happens when a household is properly aligned with the cosmic order of the Creator. We are moving from the construction site and the battlefield directly into the warmth of the family hearth. Let us step onto the trail and discover the true anatomy of a blessed life. The first segment is The True Anatomy of Joy and Uncorrupted Labor. Psalm 128, verses 1 and 2. How joyful are those who fear the Lord, all who follow his ways. You will enjoy the fruit of your labor. How joyful and prosperous you will be. The psalm opens with a resounding, universal declaration of flourishing. How joyful are those who fear the Lord, all who follow his ways. The Hebrew word used here for joyful, or blessed, is ashrei. As we have discovered on our long trek through the Psalter, ashrei is not a fleeting, superficial happiness. It is not an emotional high based on good luck or comfortable circumstances. Ashrei is a state of deep, structural well-being. It is the profound satisfaction of a human life that is working exactly the way the designer intended it to work. And how do you achieve this state of cosmic alignment? The psalmist gives a dual-sided answer, by fearing the Lord and by following his ways. The fear of the Lord is not the cowering, paralyzed terror of a slave shrinking from a cruel tyrant. It is the deep, trembling reverence of a creature who recognizes the supreme, unrivaled majesty of the Creator. We must view this through the lens of the ancient Israelite worldview, specifically regarding the divine council theology taught by Dr. Michael S. Heiser. The surrounding pagan nations lived in constant, anxious terror of their localized deities. The rebel gods of Canaan, Babylon, and Egypt were capricious, demanding, and unpredictable. The pagans had to constantly manipulate these spiritual forces through frantic sacrifices just to avoid their wrath. But Yahweh is entirely different. He is the holy, righteous sovereign. To fear him means to recognize his ultimate authority, to reject the deceptive claims of the rebel principalities, and to lock your loyalty exclusively onto his covenant. This internal reverence naturally manifests in external action. You follow his ways. You map your daily footsteps according to the cosmic blueprint of his Torah. When your life is properly aligned with the King, the blessing immediately overflows into your daily work. Verse 2 promises, You will enjoy the fruit of your labor. How joyful and prosperous you will be. This is a profound, beautiful reversal of the ancient curse of Genesis chapter 3. After the rebellion in Eden, human labor was corrupted. The ground was cursed, yielding thorns and thistles, and humanity was condemned to eat their food through anxious, sweat-soaked sorrow. Furthermore, in a chaotic world ruled by rebel spirits, a farmer could work hard all season, only to have a hostile foreign army raid his fields and steal his entire harvest right before his eyes. But under the protective, sovereign guard of Yahweh, the curse is neutralized. The pilgrim who fears the Lord is granted a rare, magnificent privilege. He actually gets to sit down, rest, and enjoy the direct fruit of his own hard work. Your labor is no longer an exercise in futility. It becomes meaningful, productive, and deeply satisfying. You become prosperous, not necessarily in the shallow, materialistic sense of amassing millions in gold, but in the true, biblical sense of having more than enough to sustain a joyful, flourishing life. The second segment is the living metaphors of the fruitful hearth. Psalm 128, verses 3 and 4. Your wife will be like a fruitful grapevine, flourishing within your home. Your children will be like vigorous young olive trees as they sit around your table. That is the Lord's blessing for those who fear him. The psalmist moves from the public sphere of the fields and the marketplace and walks right into the private sanctuary of the home. He uses two of the most powerful, evocative agricultural metaphors in the entire ancient Near East to describe the inner circle of the family. First, he declares, your wife will be like a fruitful grapevine flourishing within your home. In the ancient Mediterranean world, the grapevine was the ultimate symbol of joy, celebration, and abundant life. Wine was not just a beverage. It was the essential element that gladdened the human heart during feasts and covenant celebrations. A grapevine required careful, long-term cultivation, pruning, and protection. By comparing a wife to a fruitful grapevine flourishing within the innermost parts of the home, the psalmist is painting a picture of deep intimacy, security, and intoxicating joy. She is not a slave or a piece of property, as women often were in the surrounding pagan empires. She is the very source of life, beauty, and relational warmth at the center of the household. Her presence fills the domestic sanctuary with a rich, nourishing vitality that causes the entire family structure to blossom. Second, he looks down at the next generation. Your children will be like vigorous young olive trees as they sit around your table. Think about the unique nature of the olive tree. In ancient Israel, the olive tree was the absolute cornerstone of the economy. Olive oil was used for cooking, for fueling the lamps that push back the darkness, and for anointing priests and kings. But an olive tree is an exercise in extreme, multi-generational patience. A newly planted olive shoot can take anywhere from 10 to 15 years before it begins to bear a significant harvest of fruit. However, once that tree matures, its root system becomes virtually indestructible. It can live, flourish, and produce rich, valuable oil for centuries. When the psalmist looks at the children sitting around the family dinner table and calls them vigorous young olive shoots, he is looking far past the present moment. He is describing a generational investment. These children are currently small, requiring constant watering, protection, and pruning, according to the wisdom of God's Word. They are the arrows we learned about in Psalm 127. But because they are being raised within the secure perimeter of a household that fears Yahweh, they are developing deep, unshakable spiritual roots. They are being prepared to stand firm against the chaotic storms of the culture, ensuring that long after the parents have returned to the dust, the family legacy will continue to produce the rich oil of truth, light, and righteousness in a dark world. The psalmist pauses to secure this domestic imagery with a final, sealing declaration in verse 4. That is the Lord's blessing for those who fear him. He wants to make sure we do not miss the connection. This beautiful, flourishing picture of a joyful wife and vigorous children is not an accident. It is not a stroke of good luck. It is the direct, intentional, and covenantal reward poured out by the sovereign king upon the human being who refuses to compromise with the rebel gods, choosing instead to anchor their household to the throne of heaven. The third segment is the blessing from Zion and the multi-generational shalom. Psalm 128, verses 5 and 6. May the Lord bless you from Zion. May you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. May you live to see your grandchildren. May Israel have peace. The song concludes by shifting our gaze outward once more. The psalmist lifts his hands to pronounce a massive priestly blessing over the traveling pilgrims. May the Lord bless you from Zion. May you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. Notice the specific, geographic, and spiritual headquarters of this blessing, Zion. As we have learned on our trek, Mount Zion was recognized in the ancient Israelite worldview as the ultimate cosmic mountain. It was the place where heaven and earth, intersected the literal footstool of Yahweh's heavenly throne room. The rebel spiritual principalities claimed authority over the foreign nations from their own high places, but Zion was the exclusive, sovereign domain of the Most High God. By praying that the Lord will bless you from Zion, the psalmist is connecting the micro-blessing of the individual family dinner table directly to the macro reality of God's global kingdom. True prosperity does not originate from human effort or earthly political systems. It cascades down directly from the cosmic throne. And look at the beautiful, reciprocal relationship between the household and the nation. The psalmist prays that you will see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. He realizes that an individual family cannot fully flourish in isolation. A household needs a stable, just, and righteous society to truly thrive. When the cosmic center Jerusalem is prosperous, when its walls are secure, and its thrones of judgment are executing true justice, it creates a massive, protective umbrella under which every single family can safely grow their vines and cultivate their olive shoots. The blessing then stretches out across the timeline of history, reaching the absolute pinnacle of an ancient Israelite's desire. May you live to see your grandchildren. In our modern, fast-paced world, we often live with a short-sighted, hyper-individualistic focus. We think about our own careers, our own retirement, and our own immediate comfort. But the biblical mind was fiercely, beautifully generational. To live to see your grandchildren meant that you had successfully passed the torch of wisdom down to the next generation, and you are now watching them pass it down to the next. You stand as an old, mature olive tree, looking down at the vigorous new shoots sprouting from your own roots. You see your legacy secured. You know that when you finally close your eyes in death, the worship of Yahweh will continue uninterrupted on the earth because your grandchildren have been trained to fear the Lord. The song concludes with a short, powerful, and defining benediction. May Israel have peace. Here is our foundational, majestic anchor word, shalom. The psalmist speaks shalom over the entire nation. True peace, ultimate wholeness, and complete cosmic harmony are achieved when individual human beings fear the Lord, walk in His ways, cultivate flourishing, multi-generational households, and receive the sovereign blessing that flows directly from the throne of Zion. The Pilgrim Trail, which began in the suffocating distress of Psalm 120, has now led us into the expansive, generational rest of God's perfect peace. The fourth segment is Cultivating the Wisdom of the Hearth. Psalm 128, verses 1 through 6, provides us with a magnificent, comforting blueprint for a life of true significance and enduring legacy. It teaches us that the ultimate reward for our covenant loyalty to Yahweh is not found in the chaotic, high-stress pursuit of worldly power or autonomous empires. The true sweet fruit of a wise life is harvested within the quiet, faithful boundaries of our own homes and our own communities. As you walk your trek today, examine your own definitions of prosperity and success. Are you consuming your days with the anxious, frantic striving of the culture? Or are you cultivating the quiet, trembling reverence of the fear of the Lord? Trust the promise of the Creator. When you follow His ways, He will protect your labor and allow you to enjoy its fruit. If you are a husband, a wife, or a parent, lean into the beautiful agrarian metaphors of this psalm. Nurture the grapevine of your marriage with tenderness, security, and joy. Pour your spiritual energy into cultivating the vigorous young olive shoots around your table, playing the long game of multi-generational patience. Look up to Mount Zion, knowing that your help and your blessing flow directly from the cosmic throne. Walk forward with an unyielding commitment to build a legacy of faith, so that you, too, may one day look down at your grandchildren, see your family anchored to the truth, and experience the deep, unshakable shalom of the King. If you found this podcast insightful, please subscribe and leave us a review. Then encourage your friends and family to join us and come along tomorrow for another day of Wisdom Trek, Creating a Legacy. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your guide, mentor, and most importantly, I am your friend as I serve you through this Wisdom Trek podcast and journal. As we take this trek of life together, let us always live abundantly, love unconditionally, listen intentionally, learn continuously, lend to others generously, lead with integrity, Leave a living legacy each day. I am Guthrie Chamberlain, reminding you to keep moving forward, enjoy your journey, and create a great day every day. See you next time for more daily wisdom.